Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going nuCLEar. I am Ethan Greenberg, and I'm here alongside of my co-host, Madison Delaney. We are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. You can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. You can follow Madison at madtravels24, and you can follow the show at Going nuCLEar CLE. Of course, want to let you know, please subscribe on YouTube to our channel, share it with all your friends, send us your comments during the program, and we'll try and integrate that into the show. It always adds a little bit of a twist here to our conversation, so we appreciate you tuning in. Well, Madison, it was another rough week in Cleveland sports. The Browns, they came off of a layoff. They came off of the bye, and they showed pretty much absolutely nothing against the Dolphins and got destroyed 39-17. The Cavs are in the midst of a 5-game losing streak after winning 8 in a row. And, you know what, though? The Guardians, on the other hand, hey, they had a pretty good week. Tito Francona named AL Manager of the Year, and I'd say that's a good thing. And I didn't have a chance to tell you about this, but I was up in Ashland, and Ashland, Virginia, that is, folks. And I'm covering a basketball game, and I look out in the crowd, and what do I see? I see a guy wearing a Flying G sweatshirt. Guardians making it all the way down to Ashland, Virginia. How about that?
You gotta love it. I mean, there's Cleveland fans everywhere. I tell you, anytime anyone in my family wears Cleveland gear out, someone has to say something.
Yeah, I'm sure that my wife is embarrassed, especially when I see Ohio State people and I have to yell out the obligatory OH and get the response and people do that back to me. So it's good times when you can connect with people on that level. But yeah, I told one of my friends, I sent them a picture of the guy wearing the Guardian sweatshirt, and their response was, F that guy. And I'm like, why F that guy? I'm not so sure about this and what the hate is for the Guardians. I mean, could it be worse? Could we just not have a team? I guess I'd rather have a team with a different name than not have a team at all. Is my perspective on that, and I think you're on this kind of the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't throw away our team that may be the best chance at a championship right now. It feels. I mean, I think they'll get there. They're having a bit of a rough patch, and hopefully the Browns can get there always next year. But yeah, I mean, I think the Guardians give us the best chance. We can't just throw them away.
Well, our friend, the Factory of Sadness for Life, Indians for Life, so all right, that's fair. That's fair. But someone might say to Factory of Sadness for Life, you stink. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that was Homer. Homer's just talking behind me and, has stuff to say to people. But no, so Tito Francona wins the AL Manager of the Year. It has just been really fantastic this off season already. All the Gold Glove Awards and the front office awards, just fantastic for the Guardians, and hopefully they can build that into next season here. And actually, this is the third time that Francona has won AL Manager of the Year. And I don't know if you knew this, but all 3 of the times have been with the Indians/Guardians, and none of those times when he's winning a World Series with the Red Sox. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, it's surprising.
I'm really shocked by that. I had no idea and saw that and was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. They made some moves in the past couple days here with the 40-man roster, prior to next month's Rule 5 draft. One of the names that went out the door was Nolan Jones, who was one of those guys who made it to the majors and had an impact in some of the late season games for the Guardians. So We see him headed out to Colorado, and we got back someone, Juan Brito. I no idea, no idea who this guy is.
No, I guess we'll trust it, right? We'll trust it. They haven't really gone wrong too often. They usually know when to move on and when to acquire. So I'll put my faith in them for now. They have people that are scouting that know way more than we ever will.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the question, why haven't the Chiefs, Braves, or Seminoles changed their name? Well, quite frankly, I don't know why they haven't changed their name. But I will say that that's their deal. Okay. I can't control that. I can only control what, in fact, I can't control any of this. We can't, we just sit back and we have to enjoy it or deal with it. But anyway, there were probably, as I think this is a good point, money talks. There was a financial decision to be made. I mean, they wanted the All-Star game in Cleveland, and you better believe that MLB probably put the pressure on them. And also, there probably was an element of a branding thing, like, hey, maybe we can sell additional gear. We change the logo. People go out and buy new gear. And I think Stan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they still do sell cheap Wahoo merchandise at the stadium, at the team shop. Am I wrong on that, or am I right?
I don't know the answer to that, actually. I would be a little surprised if they did. I can imagine people on the streets outside the stadium are selling it. But I don't know about the actual team if they're selling gear like that. I think you can get it on Etsy, though, if you miss it. So there's always a place.
Gotcha. So, yeah. So just, moves. It's always interesting. We'll be waiting to see what happens here as we further approach the season. And at least we got some kind of good news out of Cleveland sports this week, because quite frankly, everybody, and this is what I'm thinking, you stink. Yeah, pretty much. That was the week in review from Homer Simpson. You stink. Yeah.
It's always good when your team that's in the off season has the best week of any team in the city. It's always good.
Yeah, not exactly a good sign. But you know what? Let's talk some Browns, because the Browns is the Browns. And when the most exciting thing that we can talk about is what's going on in Berea this week. And we're talking, what we're talking about? We're talking about Deshaun Watson coming back to practice.
We're talking about practice. Not a game. We're talking about practice.
That's right, Alan. We are talking about practice. Heck, we're not even talking to Jim Moore anymore.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
No. We're not talking playoffs.
We're talking about practice.
Yeah. So we're talking about practice here. And ultimately, my question is this. Even with Deshaun Watson coming back into the fold, and it's going to be, we got another 2 games to go. What does it really matter in the grand scheme of things for this season? Would you chalk this season up as a loss at this juncture?
I wouldn't say it's a loss in, I guess, the non-winning game sense. I think you have to end on a high note if you want to get any free agents to sign next year. If you don't turn things around significantly in the last 6 games, you're going to have a hard time getting talent to sign. But if you look good and the offense is putting up numbers, you may get, a defensive free agent or two to say, hey, like, that offense is good enough. The defense is a player or 2 away. Let me be that guy. And then they want to come just because they see the potential. So I think for that reason, and also the reason that you don't keep your pick, so it doesn't matter how bad you do, you're losing it anyways. So, I think ending on a positive is probably the only option at this point. I don't think if you look bad, I think it's going to be a really touch and go off season. We may have turnover in the coaching staff at the head coach level, which I wouldn't expect unless, something like that happened, at least for Kevin. I think there'll be turnover on his staff for sure, or there better be. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. But I think they got to win at least 5, probably, of the 6.
Yeah, I think they're done. They're toast as far as I'm concerned for this season. I just don't see how they're going to pull anything off to even make it interesting down the stretch here. I mean, Deshaun Watson. It would be great if he was the savior, but unfortunately, they've let the team down. The team has not performed where they needed to be, and I've thought about it, and again, going back to the games we should have won the game against the Jets, should have won the game against the Chargers, and you flip those 2 games, and now we're 5-4 right now as opposed to 3-6, and things are a lot better. We've got this game coming up against Buffalo on Sunday, and it was just announced a little while ago that the game has been relocated to Detroit. In my opinion, that's not a positive thing for the Browns, because the snow, I thought, actually might be something that could work in their advantage to slow down Josh Allen and the rest of the Buffalo offense, because they are such a potent offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see why you would say that. I kind of flip the opposite because we already are seeing stacked boxes in regular weather conditions. I don't know that anyone wants to see Jacoby Brissett, who has done an admirable job filling in, right? But I don't think anyone wants to see him try to throw the ball in a snowstorm. I certainly don't. 20, 30 mile an hour winds, no thank you. That made me nervous, especially also that we cannot stop the run to save our lives. So, I don't trust that we would be able to hold them in check. And even if they do drop back to pass, and I mean, maybe his elbow plays a role in whether he can cut through the wind like he normally could. But he could still take off running. Like, he still does that. And I still am super concerned about that, even though it sounds like we might get JOK back and that helps. But, we're not doing well enough against the run for me to feel confident enough that we could win a game on the ground against a stacked box. And then, even if we stack the box, it seems like we can't stop a nosebleed right now. So I kind of take a different side, I guess.
Right. I hear you. That's fair. That is a fair point. And it just added, it kind of, I had lost this thought and then it came back to me. What is the deal? We talked about this a few weeks ago. The press conferences, the statements by Kevin Stefanski, and I think we talked about, like, well, what do you want him to say? What do you want him to say? But this, we've got to be better thing. If you were running a business and you had someone who constantly screwed up and let you down and didn't get the job done and just said, "Oh, I got to do better. I got to do better." At some point, do you say, enough with the lip service, enough with the excuses, get it done? And if that means you need to in Stefanski's case, you need to hand over play calling so you can focus more on all of the phases of the game, or it means you fire your buddy Joe Woods and you fire your buddy Mike Preeper, maybe you need to do that. It's not about he needs to get better. We need to be better. We need to, that's old news. It's worn out on me. He could go in there and do like I'm doing and push some buttons and play sound clips. He doesn't even need to appear for the press conference every week, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest knock, in my opinion, on Stefanski has always been that he's holding on to people a little too long when he should cut ties and just accept that it's not working out. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're a bad coach in general, I guess. Like, they're just not a fit here. And in your program, like, maybe you need somebody a little bit different than you. And like, everybody on the staff is pretty even keel, it feels like. Maybe you do need someone who gets up and in people's faces a bit. I don't know, whatever it is, it's not working on the defense teams either. They've had a lot of problems. So, I mean, something has to change. Otherwise, it's the definition of insanity, right? You're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And, here we are getting the same result week after week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's kind of crazy? Before the season, during training camp, it was actually interesting. Tony Grossi, who has had a front row seat to many, many years of Browns football and many teams in training camp, thought they were looking really good. What happened? And at some point when it started to go downhill, did the players just give up? Did they just stop believing in the program and stop giving the effort? Like, I get it. Maybe you don't like the guy anymore or whatever, but don't you want to win football games? You're going to let Jeff Wilson run all over you? 119 freaking yards, 7 yards a carry. And then they let Raheem Mostert run for 65 yards, 8 yards a carry. That is just pitiful. That is absolutely pitiful. They didn't even get toasted so much by the wide receivers of Miami, which is, I think, what a lot of people were really concerned with Waddle and Tyreek Hill. They got beat by Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? What?
Yeah.
That's awful. That is just awful. And had it not been, and on the offensive side, you talked about the opponent stacking the box. I mean, Nick Chubb had 63 yards. And if you didn't know any better, you'd say, okay, he had a slightly below average day. 33 came on one carry. So on the rest of his carries, he had 9 yards on, 33 yards on one run. So the 30 yards, I don't have the total number of rushes he had. But then you got Kareem Hunt, 9 yards on 6 carries. Are they not blocking for him? Is he missing the hole? What's going on? Maybe it's time to put Dearness Johnson in.
Yeah, it was, I think, probably the worst game the offensive line has played in maybe the entire Callahan era in Cleveland. It was not good. They couldn't block anybody, the pass or the run, really. And I know they have some injuries on the line. I get that. But, like, typically we're used to guys stepping in the next man up situation, and they fill in pretty well. I mean, maybe not quite the same, but you don't quite see that large of a drop off. It was just not good. I think teams have maybe figured out a little bit like what we don't like in terms of blocking, with the defensive front we don't like to face. And I think they're throwing it at us and we haven't solved it yet. And I am a little concerned that we're thinking once Watson gets there that'll change and we don't really need to solve the problem when we do. So I'm hopeful that, we're not thinking that way and that we're scheming up ways to beat that. That way we can keep the defense a little more honest. Despite Nick Chubb's best efforts, it's hard to do anything when you're getting hit in, your backfield. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. It's beyond comprehension what is going on with that Browns offense and the fact that they can't get these teams out of these, loading up the boxes. And now to your point, though, you mentioned Deshaun Watson and thinking that's going to solve for that. I will say this. We come out of the gate and we march down the field and score a touchdown. In fact, one thing that's was a positive of the game was the initial kickoff return by Jerome Ford. He comes off the IR and makes an instant impact. The Browns go down, they score a touchdown right away. So you've got momentum at that point, and the defense does squat. And then they're driving down again, and Nick Chubb fumbles. I mean, wow, that you knew things were like not looking good when that happened, because that changed the complexity of the game right then and there. The whole momentum factor. It's a complete debacle what is going on and what's transpiring. When we looked at the schedule this season and thought about who we could beat and who we didn't stand a good chance against, I mean, it's rough. It is rough out there. I hear what you're saying. They need to not think that Deshaun Watson is going to come in and instantly solve for all the problems. On a positive note, Donovan Peoples-Jones, 99 yards. 99 yards on 5 receptions. I believe I saw he had 6 consecutive games of 50 plus yards, and
Yeah.
that is pretty good to be able to do that. Unfortunately, you talked about the injuries on the offensive line. Wyatt Teller came back in the game from returned after a calf injury, not able to finish the game, and I believe I read Jed Wills rolled his ankle. I don't know. Do you think Wills is a bust at this juncture?
I don't think I'm willing to say that yet because I think the talent's there, but I think everyone's biggest gripe with him is like the want to isn't, and you can't really be a left tackle in this league if you don't have a bit of a mean streak to you. So I think that's the concern, but it's not for a lack of talent, which again is probably something we're seeing kind of across the board is, the effort might not always be there, but the talent seems to be. I mean, everybody called the Browns one of the most talented teams in the offseason, right? Like it wasn't something I just made up in my head. So like to say, have people say that who, obviously know football, ex-players, analysts, all that, for it to look like it looks now feels like, it's like they couldn't have possibly just like all been wrong. Like they have to have talent. Like everybody thought that they did. They see it. And it's like, why is the effort not there? What's the issue? Why are we not getting that out of players? And it is more on, I think, the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side. But I think it's not uncommon to hear people think that he takes plays off. So, hopefully that's remedy and like figure out what the point is that you and what button to hit to that you can get that out of him game in and game out.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is, like you said, what buttons to push to be a good coach, to know how to get to the most out of your players. I wanted to turn back, talking about the defense, just some things that are going through my head, talking about the way they played this season or looking at it. It's the scheme. My question is this. So it's almost multiple choice here. Is it scheme, poor execution, poor effort? I don't think it's the lack of talent, or is it just the coach?
Yeah, I think it's a combo of things. I think the effort is poor, and I think you can see that on defense where, we're not getting off blocks. With minimal effort, it seems that we're even trying to shed a block. In some positions, we're like in play to make a tackle, and we just like almost go the opposite way. Sometimes it's just very strange. But I think all of that is as a result of probably like not believing in the system. There's not the trust in the system. They don't believe like the guys are going to be where they need to be. So there's maybe a lack of trust in each other. And I think all of that comes down to coaching. And I think they've lost the locker room. And for that reason, they don't trust his system. And then for that reason, they don't give the amount of effort they should give. So I think it's a bit of a domino effect of all of those things and like one leading to the other. And, I don't know that it's something you can turn around unless you move on. And perhaps winning right before the bye week was a curse, actually, more than a blessing, because I think it meant we held on to him. I think we lose that game. We probably don't keep the staff the same. Maybe we do because they value stability, it seems like, over everything else. But I think probably you're more inclined to maybe move on mid-season than you would be now that we don't have a bye coming up.
Right. I gotcha. And so Buffalo coming into the game, they suffered a tough loss on Sunday to the Vikings. They've lost a couple games in a row now. And in fact, Josh Allen wasn't phenomenal. His mediocrity is pretty darn good. 29 of 43, 330 yards, just your, 300 plus yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. And I don't know. The Browns have in fact beat Josh Allen before, but that was a few years ago during the COVID season. And I believe, and I don't know how they managed to pull that one off, but Josh Allen has gotten significantly better and progressed over the years. I know a lot of people are bemoan the fact that the Browns didn't draft him. However, I don't know that he would have turned out as well as he has done so in Buffalo, because the coaching would have been different. And would they have gotten his accuracy issues fixed here? Would they, the maturation process?
Yeah. I mean, they took a chance that normally does not pan out, and it panned out. And sometimes it's a risk reward, and you get all the physical tools and you try to make it work. And I mean, it has for sure. He's definitely turned them around. And, I think one of the things that I'm maybe most excited about having Watson on the field is like, with players like Josh Allen, anytime the ball leaves his hand, you're just like, feel like it's about to be like a 60-yard touchdown. Like, that's just how it feels every time a player like that lets the ball go. And, I think with Baker last year, it was a lot of like, oh God, please don't let it be picked off, more than like, okay, this is going to like be solid. I even almost feel that way a little bit with Jacoby, because he's hit the deep ball better than I expected, I think, this season. And I know he's not, or I trust, I guess, that he's not putting the ball in harm's way much. I guess our saving grace will maybe be whether they decide to keep it in Josh Allen's hands or exploit what everyone else is exploiting, which is the run game.
Right. That is going to be questionable. I mean, they don't have a great run game. Their leading rusher last week against the Vikings, Josh Allen. Allen with 84 yards on 6 carries. Hey, we get to see Duke Johnson, former Brown Duke Johnson, will be on the Buffalo side. But no, we're going to have a tough time dealing with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. I mean, they're game breakers. And now playing with no inclement weather, I think for the defense, that's going to make it an extra bit of a challenge. But we shall see, or at least people in a certain viewing area will see. I'm having a tough time, tuning in to Cleveland sports these days. One of the things I was thinking about is like, am I a fanatic or am I a fan addict for Cleveland sports? Because I tend to go back to it, like no matter how badly it is, how bad it is. I know it's not good for my heart. It just is not good, and my mental well-being, but I go back to it. I don't understand it. Tough loving Cleveland sports, some days.
Yeah, I think you can question a lot of things about maybe Cleveland fans, but you can never question loyalty. It's like loyal to a fault for sure. I think it's definitely fair to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we beat the Browns, beat that topic up pretty badly here. I'm going to look at our Cavaliers. All of a sudden, they come out of the gate. They and apparently I am an addict. Just to clarify here for anyone who was wondering. But the Cavs, they come out of the gates. They lose their opener in Toronto. Garland gets the laceration to his eye. Somehow they win games without him. And they start off 8-1. And you're like, all right, whoa. This is great. We thought they were going to be good, but this good? This soon?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it. And all of a sudden they have hit a freaking brick wall and can't get past anybody. They've lost 5 in a row. They're 8-6 now. And my biggest gripe is what appears to be a lack of intensity on defense and a lack of detail.
Yeah. I mean, I think it doesn't help that Allen's out the last, 2 games that he's missed, maybe? I think it's 2. It might have been 3. He cleans up a lot for us, and I think we definitely missed that. I mean, it's the story of the end of our season last year, right? We were doing okay. We were kind of staying afloat for a while, and then when Jared Allen went out, it was kind of like all downhill from there. So I do think that's part of it. I mean, I don't know that you're wrong. I think we're over helping a lot. I thought, especially against the Bucks, we over helped a lot. And I mean, to some extent, I think the game plan was probably like, all right, anybody but Giannis will beat us. And like, Robin Lopez did, I guess. Or Brooke Lopez did. And I mean, he hit like 7 or 9 3. It was like some ridiculous number. But Giannis was in check.
Yeah, 7 of 9 on threes last night. Brooke Lopez was their leading flipping scorer, 29 points, 7 of 9 from three-point land. Absolutely ridiculous. You know who their second leading scorer was? Was it Giannis? Nope, it was not Giannis. Jordan Nwora off the bench, 21 flipping points. You got to be kidding me. And I mean, it wasn't like you put up 98 points. Okay, that's not good in the NBA today, but Mitchell and Garland each get their 20 plus. Mobley gets 20, but LeVert with 2 points, and then nobody off the bench got more than, I think, 5.
LeVert played limited minutes too. He only played 20, I think, is what I saw in the box score. I don't know if you have it in front of you. That was a little weird. I do think the rotations have been a little strange. I guess. I mean, I don't distrust JB. Like, I think he knows what he's doing, of course. But we've been kind of toying with minutes between like Okoro, Jetty. Why am I blanking on his name? Lamar Stevens, who I appreciate, got some minutes because I think he brings you that tenacity that you miss sometimes with some other guys on the floor. Like, he's not taking crap from anybody, I don't feel like. And he's not a liability on the offensive end. I think he was like 2 for 3 from 3. But I mean, he's going to go after like rebounds for you. He's giving you max effort all the time. So I'm good with him getting minutes. But it seems like we're really, I mean, and I get it's what the game calls for and they're professionals. They have to stay ready. But I do think that impacts Jetty the most. And he's one of your best scorers off the bench, at least for right now, along with Kevin, of course. So, I mean, I think it messes with his head a little bit when he plays like a couple minutes and then the next game he's supposed to play like 25 minutes. I think he's too young maybe still to really like have the right mindset and approach to it. But hopefully he'll learn. He's going to have to because he's probably going to play some scattered minutes from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I mean, I don't know. They can't find the right combination to get things done. They had a few games there where they started off really, really slowly. The game on Sunday against Minnesota, they come out and they got torched in the first quarter. It was 40-17 after 1. They trailed by 20 points going into the fourth quarter. And then, Garland goes off without Allen, without Dean Wade, without Donovan Mitchell on Sunday. He scored 51 points. So he showed his true value and ability on Sunday. Unfortunately, again, the defense was lackluster and they got a little bit of a late start on playing hard there. We talked about it last week or the last week or so about the NBA last 2 minute report and like, what do we think of that? Yeah. Did you see the officials came out and they admitted that screen that Klay Thompson laid on Okoro late in the game should have been called an illegal screen? I mean, unreal. Absolutely unreal. I mean, how does this happen?
Yeah, I mean, they set more illegal screens than I think anybody in the league, and I can go back to hating them for those legal screens now that we're good again. But I mean, you knew as soon as he put his hands up that he was like, I didn't do anything. That's like that's the sign that I definitely got away with it. And I mean, he knew it. I mean, he pretty much went into him like a linebacker, just dropped that shoulder and buried him. So yeah, I mean, that's frustrating. And I'm sure like the coaching staff and I'm sure the players would echo, like, you don't want to put it in the referee's hands at the end of a game. But of course, if you're playing good teams, you don't always like have the luxury of being up by like, 10, 15 points when something like that happens. And it is unfortunate. Like, I wish they would maybe make some adjustments to the like coaches challenge. Like obviously that's under 2 minutes. They can't challenge. They couldn't challenge it anyways because it was a no call. But like a lot of times the situations that burn you are because referees swallow their whistle. And it's a situation where like, oh yeah, we didn't want to call that because we didn't want to be wrong. You know, like whatever the case may be, like didn't want to interrupt the flow of the game. But like those are the ones that bite you the most. So, I mean, I'm sure they won't adjust the coaches challenge, but it would be nice if they did.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. I can't get over it. And of course it doesn't help when you feel like the calls seem to always go against you, I mean, but like you said, you don't want to be in those close moments at the end of a game. You need to put teams away. They had opportunities against Golden State. They had opportunities in some of the other games that they've lost. And now they're, again, they're in a 5-game losing skid, but they've got a 4-game homestand coming up. And, they're going to be facing a depleted Charlotte team tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing. You see LaMelo Ball injured his ankle again, stepping on a fan's foot.
I didn't see it was on a fan's foot, but I did see he got hurt again.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. Are you kidding me? That's an are you kidding me type moment. But what do you think? Okay, lost 5 in a row. I think we might have already kind of touched on this in general, but like, what have we learned about this Cavs team? Do you think are they better than are they worse than we expected, better than we expected, or about where we expected them to be so far?
I mean, I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, they're probably about where we expected them to be when the season started. After the 8-game win streak, I think we all raised our expectations, and now it's kind of like back down to earth. I mean, I think with them currently, I think it's like the growth that we thought would need to happen at the beginning of the year is kind of hitting us now. Where we're trying to figure out how are we going to handle late game situations when you have Garland and you have Mitchell who can both get their shot off whenever they want, who gets the shot. And it's a lot of like your turn, my turn, not really running the offense through. We're kind of killing clock and then relying on either of those guys to like make something happen at the end. So I think they're probably like expectations wise where I would have thought they would have been. But I probably wouldn't have given them the 8-game win streak to start the season, or roughly start the season anyways. I would have thought that it'd be scattered throughout a little bit. Like I wouldn't have said we beat Boston twice, lose to the Bucks. Sure, I'd probably believe that, of course. Although they had some injuries, so that's really one you should probably pull out. I mean, I know we had some injuries, but they had a lot of guys out. So you want to try to take advantage when you can, and we didn't exactly do that, but yeah.
Right. And we're going to be lamenting these games. We might be, it's not such a big deal when you've got an 82-game sample size regular season to have like one particular game come back and bite you in the bottom. But you talked about the end of game situations, and a couple of times in those close games on the West Coast trip, it seemed like we were force feeding Donovan Mitchell the ball, and teams knew that, and he's not getting good quality shots off. I mean, you look at LeBron, and as much as sometimes people say he's too unselfish, I mean, he would make the right basketball play, generally speaking. He would get it to the guy. He would get it to Damon Jones wide open in the corner for a 3-pointer to win a game. And I feel like they've got to kind of mature and gel and get the game plan and the situational type things worked out here. It is early in the season, but I feel like right now at the end of games, they are force feeding it too much to Donovan Mitchell, and they need to operate a little bit more smoothly and fluidly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like towards the end of games lately, Okoro's been on the floor a lot for the defensive side of the ball, and I think there's maybe not the same level of trust, and like why would there be? He's turning down open looks to try to drive into traffic, or I think like at the end of the half, I think it was, or the end of the quarter, turn down an open three to try to dump it down into the post for a turnover. And so I think it depends a little bit on who's out there with him. Like, I think he'll trust Dean Wade. I think he trusts Jetty for the most part. But like, if you need defense out there, you're not having him out there, and that can play a role in whether he makes that right basketball play or he keeps it in his hands. It is interesting. I mean, I think they'll get there and they'll gel. I'd like to see them run their offense more and not try to dribble out the clock, playing not to lose. I don't think that's necessarily the mentality. I saw a tweet and I forget who it was, but someone made a comment specific to the Warriors game. Like, the Warriors don't stop playing their brand of basketball, no matter what the score is and no matter what the clock says. Like, if they want to run on you, if they want to take a three early in the clock because they think they're open, they're doing it and they don't have any doubts about it. And that's because they've played together forever. I mean, they're acclimating a few new players, but for the most part, they know each other. And I think that's something we need to kind of get to, not necessarily that same, like, we're not going to play like them, but play our style and run the offense the way we need to, and then take whatever the defense is giving you rather than dribble out the clock one-on-one. If somebody helps, we'll hope somebody hits a shot, that kind of thing.
Right. I hear you. And I'm just shocked that, how many points per game is being allowed by the top defensive team in the NBA right now?
Is it over 100?
Oh, yes, you would be correct. It is 106.3 points by the Dallas Mavericks is the best defense in the NBA right now. That is just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst team is the Spurs, 119.5 per game. Amazingly, Cleveland is 8th, allowing 109.2 points per game. Are you kidding me? I mean, what happened to defense? Is it because the refs are giving more freedom or kind of giving preference to the offensive players? Is it a league-wide issue where they say, look, we want the fans to enjoy the game. We want the excitement. What's going on here that teams are scoring so many points? Is it that they're shooting so many more threes? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a valid question. I would be interested to see what the data says, because obviously they have a rule, and I forget the exact name of it, but where you foul in transition, a take foul, I think they call it, where you automatically get free throws in the ball, or a free throw in the ball back. But like, teams are not fouling as much on the break, so you're getting out and getting numbers in situations where they would take a foul previously. So I'm sure that plays part of it. Obviously, the league wants points lead to tickets being sold, and they're going to facilitate that any way they can. Although they did take some stuff away, like the swoop across for the shot and unnatural movement into a shot on a foul, which sometimes still burns me for Kevin Love, because I'm like, he was shooting legitimately that time, but they usually don't give it to him. So it's probably a number of things, but I would be interested to know what the stats say in regards to the take foul, because I think that probably has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough out there, and times have changed, but I wouldn't mind seeing some tougher defense. I mean, and you saw it when the Cavs won the championship. They clamped down on Golden State to win the title. And it's interesting that in the playoffs, the refs even kind of more so swallow their whistle, so the physicality level jumps up. And then the scores come down. But the Cavs, they've got a 4-game homestand, and we shall see what comes of that. We've got Charlotte on Friday night. Then Miami is going to be tough on Sunday. Next Monday, Atlanta, they are playing out of their minds. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, they're hitting on all cylinders. And then Portland's playing very well also in the early season. So there are no gimmies. The closest thing to a gimme is a week from Sunday, the 27th, when they go back to Little Caesars Arena and play Detroit again. But they need some wins before then. They definitely need some wins before then. And I'd like to see another Cleveland team win a game in the city of Detroit before that Sunday.
True. Very true.
So we are coming up on the the holidays here, and I think this was a good thing, a good topic to discuss here. Football is coming up on Thursday. You've got your traditional Lions game, you got your traditional Cowboys game. For you, where do you rank your top holidays, top sporting event holidays? Where does Thanksgiving sit for you?
I feel like when the Cavs are not playing on Christmas Day, like when we had LeBron and we were playing on Christmas Day, I would have to put that up at the top. But now that we don't play on Christmas Day, I'm pretty sure anyways, I would go Thanksgiving Day football because you eat a ton of food and then you just sit on the couch and you mellow out and you drink your beer or whatever you have. And then I would go Christmas Day. We'll flip them once the Cavs are good enough again that they can play on Christmas Day in the eyes of the NBA. And then I'd go New Year's Day bowl games. I watch them. I'm not a big college football fan because generally speaking, Carolina is not very good at college football, although we have a Heisman hopeful this year in Drake May. So I am hopeful that we can maybe make a little bit of noise. I think we're in the ACC championship now after a win last week. So maybe we'll change a little bit with that, and that can bump up above Thanksgiving Day football because the Browns pretty much never play then. So, but yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I would say that if I'm ranking them, if I'm talking about like Christmas Day NBA games, Thanksgiving NFL, and New Year's Day bowl games, I would say this. The Thanksgiving football is great just because it is, it's the tradition, and it's generally a good day because you're eating some good turkey, and that's what I'm talking about. Eating some good turkey and you're hanging with your family, so that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure. Christmas Day NBA without the Cavs, it doesn't mean as much, and New Year's Day bowl games, like I can't get into most of the bowl games because they mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing unless you're playing in the college football playoff and you have a chance to win the championship. It's just an exhibition game. It really is. And I know it's just a moneymaker for college to be able to have these events and such, but for a lot of players, you risk injury. And that's why you see them not wanting to some people sit out those games.
Yeah.
I'll say that at least, even though it wasn't for a championship, and I guess it goes back to you're talking about North Carolina. If you specifically have a college that you went to or you follow, being from Ohio, being an Ohio State fan, watching the Rose Bowl was fantastic against Utah last year. I mean, what an amazing game. That was just a phenomenal game. A real big coming out party for Marvin Harrison. Unfortunately, Jackson Smith and Jigba with the injury this year hasn't played up to that level, but it was just amazing to lose guys like Olave and Garrett Wilson to the NFL and still see those kinds of numbers. Mm-hmm. One other holiday I wanted to ask you about, or it's not a holiday, but should it be? First 2 days of March Madness.
Oh, absolutely, it should be.
that right there is a holiday. I used to have friends around that would have the day off or would take the day off too, and we go and we sit in the bar and watch the games all day long. Best day. Those are like two of my favorite days of the sports calendar year. Would be sitting and watching college basketball. Even if my school isn't playing, I still enjoy doing that. So as we know, I mean, I think you got to put it up there as a holiday, considering the fact that men go and get vasectomies just so they can take the days off, watch the games. I mean, that's doing a lot. That's a sacrifice right there.
Yeah, I mean, we get now, I mean, I miss coaching because we would just go to a bar, like you're saying, wouldn't have to worry about taking time off. And now we have floating holidays, which a lot of companies have started doing. So you can kind of take whatever holiday you want. Last year, I did use mine for March Madness, and I probably will do that again this year because you have to. I mean, there's games on like once 12 o'clock hits, and then you get kind of into the tip off of the next game, and you're just watching the last 5 to 6 minutes of every game that's on TV. It's just a blast because most of the time it's coming down to the wire. You have a few blowouts, of course, but it's always exciting. You have to watch. And of course, as a former basketball player, I got to put it up there the holiday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So now let's get to a little yay or oy vey. All right. I thought about it, and something that, I was thinking about was different fan experiences at the stadium, at the arena, different instruments that are used to make noise and create the ambiance, as it were, in the sport venue. So my first yay or oy vey, the air horn. Yay or oy vey?
I got oy vey. I don't like the air horn. Scares me every time. Never expecting it. Don't like it.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm a yay on air horn. I'm all about the air horn. Yes, I am jumpy, but I love the air horn at the high school that reminds me of high school football. The air horns at the high school football games, and I'm a big fan of that. Big fan. All right, my next on the yay or oy vey noise making machines, thunder sticks. Yay or oy vey?
Yeah, I would go yay. I like a good thunder stick because it's useful in multiple ways. You can make noise or you can smack someone with it if you need to.
An excellent point, and it's a good thing to use that rather than your fist, and it's good, especially when you have kids, you can beat them up with their thunder sticks. I'm a big fan of that. Although my dad sent me or gave me some thunder sticks he had gotten at a Cavs game, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let the kids have these. I don't want them running around. I don't need any more noise here. So we're gonna go past that. All right, next one, yay or oy vey? Cowbells.
You always want more cowbell, I guess. No, I'm probably an oy vey on cowbells. Just because there was a team that we played growing up that the parents would always have cowbells and I hated them. So I think I carry that hate on for cowbells.
Yeah, I'm not a cowbell fan. I watched the games, college games at Mississippi State, the football games. I'm like, give me a break. Come on now. I'm not down with that. And so I'm going to go oy vey on the cowbells. And last but not least, because I know you're a soccer fan and you will remember a recent World Cup, the vuvuzela. Yay or oy vey?
I'll go yay. I love a good cultural thing. Like, it's always cool when you get to like have a little insight into someone else's culture, I guess. So I will go yay. I'm wondering if they're not banned from the World Cup though coming up. It starts Sunday, I believe. I feel like they were banned from the Women's World Cup when I went, if I remember correctly, and it was a big deal in terms of like countries being upset that they couldn't bring their cultural thing in. But yeah, I'll say yeah.
All right, and this is a bonus yay or oy vey because we're talking a little bit of soccer here. Do you wish, in the form of noise making, fans chanting and singing? Yay or oy vey?
It's a tough one. I will go yay because I think it adds a lot to the game, and it's mostly enjoyable. I do not participate, but I do enjoy being at a game where that's happening. We have a local NWSL team. We have a group of supporters who will do that. I forget what they're called, but I think where they sit is Courage Country. And they will do that. And I always enjoy that because it's good to see people support.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm a yay on that. But mostly I'm a yay when my team is doing well and when the other teams are chanting, I'm not so happy about it, and I just want to tell them to shut up.
That's fair.
But no, I do enjoy that. I mean, it's crazy in the NBA, all the music that plays, and
I know.
it's
Yeah.
constantly, instead of the old standbys, the charge, the defense chant, that kind of has lost me a little bit there. I'm old. We've discussed this, all the time here. So all that being said, I think now we come to that portion of the show where we go nuclear. Madison, what are you going nuclear about this week?
I think it has to be Ticketmaster. I am a Taylor Swift fan, and I did get tickets, so I am excited. But the experience was a nightmare, to say the least. And I'm sure maybe most people know, some people probably don't care because it's Taylor Swift. But it was, I think, Tuesday was when the pre-sale started. If you got a code, I did not get a code. So I had to wait, whatever, that's fine. I did the Capital One pre-sale. It worked out. But some people that I know waited in the queue for 6 hours because Ticketmaster couldn't handle the demand. And it paused it. The Capital One pre-sale is supposed to be in the afternoon. They couldn't handle the traffic, so they kicked people out, moved the Capital One to the next day. It was just like so, I mean, and you didn't even get tickets necessarily if you had it. It was just a mess of an experience. And now general tickets were supposed to go on sale to the general public, I guess, on Friday. And now they're like, we don't have enough inventory and we can't handle it, so we're just not going to sell them, which is crazy. So the whole thing has been a nightmare. And then the CEO went on some news thing and said it was Taylor Swift's fault because she hasn't toured in 4 years, like COVID didn't happen. So it's a whole thing, and I'm not happy about it, but I am happy I got tickets. So I will count that as a win. But I do feel for everyone who didn't get tickets.
Yeah, I'd be if it were one of my favorite artists or a musical artist that I liked or an event that I wanted to go to, I'm right there with you. I would be going off about that. So
yeah,
it's been a trying week, and I think when things aren't going well in the sports world, I have a lot more time to think, and that's not a good thing. Because I get angry about things. Unfortunately, sometimes people are, feeling the brunt of my anger about other things unnecessarily. But one thing that I want to talk about that's not sports related is why. Somebody explain to me why you're outsourcing your call centers to other countries. How frustrating is it when you're already trying to deal with a situation that requires explanation, that you call and you get somebody on the phone who says their name is Jim or Bob or Mary, and clearly it's not. Clearly it's not, and clearly, I'm sorry, clearly English is not their first language. It doesn't mean they're not smart people. It just means there's a little bit of a communication issue. I wouldn't want to be in another country and then calling and having all my calls routed through the United States. Someone trying to speak my language, who wasn't fluent in it, didn't know what they were talking about, and is looking, and this is all customer service people. They're looking out of a book and they've got certain script answers and they can't do anything. And you spend all kinds of time on the phone trying to talk to these people and you get nowhere. And it really is ridiculous when companies are like, well, we're going to use this third party company to save us some money. I'm like, you know what? Take a salary cut at the top, and then you wouldn't have to do that, and you'd be doing a less of a disservice to your clients. It's crazy. That has me going nuclear. I unfortunately come across that too often. Couple sports related things. What in the world are teams doing? And I see this more in college than I do the pros. What are they doing on short yardage situations, lining up in the flipping shotgun? Mm-hmm. Why would you line up under center? Can somebody tell me what the advantage is of lining up in the shotgun in a short yardage situation? I just don't understand it. It seems to me that the running back has a long way to go, and the defense has a much easier time reading the play. I don't understand it, and it's baffling. It's mind-boggling that these people, especially in college, continue to do this. I mean, look at the Browns, look at Jacoby Brissett, and the number of times he has been able to get first downs on the short yardage simply by getting the leverage on the offensive line and going for the quarterback sneak. I don't know. It drives me absolutely nuts when I see that in college football. And lastly, but not leastly, dealing with college sports, you go to college to learn how to do something for your future, a profession perhaps, right? And they're supposed to train you and teach you for that. Why is it in college sports they don't abide by professional rules? Why do they have you doing different things? Why is it a college football field, you got the hash marks spread way out, and in high school even further than that? What is the point of that? If your goal is to make it to the NFL, shouldn't you be trained in a way that you're going to be playing at the pro level? Because the strategy completely changes by spreading out the hash marks and having a real wide side of the field to a not so wide side of the field, and it becomes a speed game, et cetera, et cetera. That makes no sense to me why you're doing that. It makes it more difficult for field goal kickers in college. How do they prepare for their future in the pros if you're not setting up for success? And one other thing in college sports that well, the possession arrow. Why not a jump ball? Why in college basketball are they using a possession arrow? Do you know? Do you have any clue?
I don't necessarily know, but I will say after I had finished my playing career and I went to the coaching convention as a coach, the rule change came up about going from halves to quarters in women's college basketball. And one of the driving reasons for that was like, we're the only ones in the entire space of basketball, high school, professional, Olympic, like whatever level you want to say, we're the only ones that don't play quarters. And so that drove that change. And like, they're trying to make changes, but they just don't happen quickly. And I thought that the men would actually follow suit and get out of halves and play quarters, and that hasn't happened. Does it happen? Do they play quarters now? Yeah, I didn't think so. I was like, wait, now I'm second guessing myself. But yeah, it's like, everything's like a step behind in terms of trying to make it like that. But I think that's the general goal. But I think they don't want to do like too much change too quickly, and like it only comes up every like 3 or 4 years that they can vote to make rule changes like that. And then you got like Gino Auriemma saying we should lower the rims for women's basketball. And like, you're like, please don't do that. Like, we have people who can dunk actually now, so it's fine. But yeah, you're definitely right on. It really prepare you in the way that it could and should. But I guess they're doing what they can to maybe make money, especially in like college football. Like, it'll be more exciting if we give that extra space on the field to try to, get someone out in space. But yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. If I were the NFL and I were scouts, I would say to colleges, look, if you want to get these players to be successful at the next level, let's have them play in similar circumstances. I mean, okay, fine. So the 1 foot down rule for, or whatever. And if you're on the ground, you're down, you don't have to be touched, et cetera. Okay. But let's make the field similar and how you're playing so that when you go to the next level, it's not as much of a shock. So that quarterbacks can figure out how to read a defense better, all those sort of things. Two other quick notes here. That's what has me going nuclear this week, amongst other things. But first of all, I just want to get into thanking some folks for the show. I want to thank Craig Fountain. We are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. Follow Madison at madtravels24. And the show is Going nuCLEar CLE. Hope you folks tune in. You send us your comments, even if you want to send us a tweet during the week, something to chat about or thoughts you had on the show. Please subscribe to our channel. We'd love that. I just want to say a couple thank yous, and Madison, I'll give you a moment as well. First of all, I'd like to thank you for being here with me to do this program and chat about the Cleveland sports. I thank the people that are listening, and I thank the folks that helped put this together, Craig Fountain, Buzz Sports CLE, and just in general, I want to thank even though my family's not around me, I have to thank my family because they're not around me, and my kids are doing their thing and not in here. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone out there who is following us. And hopefully we can build up a bigger audience. Denny Clutter, Factory of Sadness for Life. We love you guys and love you participating in the show. Madison, if you got anybody you'd like to thank this time, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it is the season for thankfulness. Thank you for thinking of me when you wanted to start this. I mean, I appreciate it. I've always kind of wanted to talk sports and never really had a platform to do it. So I appreciate that. And then, of course, obviously, Craig and Buzz Sports, of course, we have to say thank you to them. And, of course, the faithful people in the chat. Always love to see that. Even if you disagree with what I say sometimes, it's okay. I understand the general aura of negativity that Cleveland sports carries, and I think it's gotten to the players a bit. So hopefully we can try to get out of that and have a little bit of positivity. And of course, my dog for not barking today like he did last week.
Hey, he was a guest on the show. He was a guest. We that time. We're gonna have to work on that. We got to get some different perspectives in here. Add some flavor to our conversation here, of course, and see what else is on the people's minds. So it's fantastic. Well, Madison, have a great Thanksgiving, and we will be back. Look forward to being back in a couple of weeks, and we'll have lots to talk about then. And it's been a fantastic program. Again, we will not be in next week. We'll let everybody take a break, enjoy their Thanksgiving, and we will be back in a couple of weeks with more of Going nuCLEar. So for Madison Delaney, I'm Ethan Greenberg. You've been watching Going nuCLEar, presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Good night.